please join me in welcoming back to the stage director Charles Poekel, actor Kentucker Audley, and the film cinematographer Sean Price Williams.
Thank you, guys.
I think a good place to begin would be the beginning, or before the beginning. 3 years of field research, shall we say, went into the conception of this film, or 3 winters of you working at the stand pictured in the film. Could you talk a bit about that whole process and I mean, it obviously informed the writing of the film, but directors typically don't get that hands-on with the subject matter. So, yeah.
Well, I knew that when we came to shoot it, that nobody would ever let us kind of take over their Christmas tree stand to make a movie at, because they're just focused on making money and heading out. And I knew we wanted complete control over the location, and I naively thought that we could use profits from selling trees to fund the film. It's not quite as lucrative a business as I think I thought it was. But so my own Christmas tree stand, and we sold trees for 3 years before we made the film. Some of my employees are here tonight. Hey, guys. And then the 4th year, we shot it.
And I've heard you refer to this as a sort of method writing. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I started interviewing guys selling Christmas trees, and I didn't feel like I was really getting a sense of what the job was like. And it's obviously easier to write from experience, so I just thought, why don't I just experience this myself, and then I'll have a better idea of what it's like to actually live in this trailer and sell trees all day long and that kind of stuff.
And you had Kentucker and the other actors who play the people who work at the stand come and actually work there. Right. Kentucker, could you talk a bit about that? Or, it probably left an impression on you.
So the main reason I wanted to do this film was because of the setting. I was very interested in this authentic thing. I saw a video of sort of like promotional pre-movie Kickstarter video, and the setting was just like, how could you go wrong with this dinky trailer in this side, corner Christmas tree shop? So immediately I wanted to do the film, and I also love being put in a spot where I have to learn on my feet and actually get in there and do the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not a great pretender, so if I can actually get in there and sell trees and learn about the trees and you learn about sawing them off and watering and all that, it helps tremendously to really get in there and be present in the moment. So yeah. Particularly with this film, so there was like 2 or 3 days of just meeting with Charlie and him walking me through the whole thing and how to sell, how to describe the trees, and that was 2 or 3 days of that.
I think my biggest fear was people. It's such a small percentage of people, but actual tree guys watching the movie and being like, "That's not that's not how we do it." So I think that's a fear when you make any film. Is that whoever actually lives as the character would refute it.
But they can't say that with this movie. It's that's not how it goes. This guy did it for 5 years. He's still open. You want to come by next Christmas?
But Sean,
McCulloch Park, just come on by.
Sean was on board early on. You were the first person really to commit.
Yeah, that was like 3 years before or something. We did a little test because I wanted to convince him that, he wanted to shoot on film, but he didn't think it was technically going to be possible, and I just wanted to show that it would be the great choice.
Yeah, I wanted to address this because Charles is a relatively new face, but there are some very familiar ones in the film. Kentucker and Hannah Gross are probably known to a lot of the New York audience, and there are Sean Price Williams and Robert Greene, shooting and editing the film. These are also names that people know. I was hoping you could talk about your collaboration with Sean and with Robert, both of whom worked on Listen Up, Philip, a very different film, in similar capacities. So, what was the working dynamic like? And I believe you've worked with Robert before.
Yeah, I met Robert and Sean. I was working at a documentary film company called Fourth Row Films in New York City, and Robert was editing there, and Sean was doing a lot of shooting. And yeah, I mean, I had to watch hours of Sean's footage as from when I was an intern until I was an editor, and yeah.
Yeah, it was all documentary stuff though. Then
Yeah.
everything that we had done together, and. Yeah, I thought that this was going to be more documentary when we were going into it. So, I mean, I thought it was going to be just a lot more, and then just a very, very faint little story, but mostly just real people buying trees and stuff, I think.
I somehow sold Sean on it. I don't know how. Like before he'd ever seen anything that ever created. I think the second day of shooting, he
I
was
just like Charlie. You're likable, so.
Yeah, that's why I signed up
Yeah.
for this guy.
That
I
counts for a lot.
second day of shooting or something, Sean was like, I don't think we've even seen a movie together. He's like, I don't even know what movies you like. It's a little too late for that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys already brought up 16 millimeter. It's obviously an integral component of the film's overall aesthetic, but something I'm always interested in with filmmakers working at the scale or sort of the logistical or practical considerations that go into working with 16, especially in such a performance-driven film as this. So maybe all three of you could speak to this. What sort of impact did working with 16 have on the way that you directed Kentucker and Hannah and Company? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the most obvious is that we only had so much film that we could shoot, so we couldn't do 100 takes of something. I think everyone in a crew is more deliberate when that's the case, and it's like, everyone's silence. You screw this up, that's literally you're burning your footage.
Yeah, so there's a focus that is inherent when you're shooting and you only have 2 or 3 takes.
Not really in focus necessarily, though.
No, not in focus. And the only thing that can distract you is Sean, his presence and his, wisecracks and his casualness. It's very, loose set. Yeah, but I love shooting film. I don't think I ever want to go back. I can't imagine, this flimsy digital stuff that people do anymore. It's not fun. This is cinema here.
But as a performer, how does that influence your preparations? Because you're sort of reaching deep, in a lot of this film for some really interesting.
Is that what it looks like?
Yeah.
No, I actually didn't have to reach too deep here. All this stuff kind of comes naturally. The quiet and the looking around and the sort of expressionlessness.
It's alluring.
If you want to ask a question of that same question of in a movie I'm supposed to yell or be extroverted, then that's a difficult question. That's a difficult thing for me to do. But this is just sort of like I'm not a trained actor, so my one starting point is just to sort of try to be as real as possible. And I feel like actors have the tendency to try to give you something with their face rather than just existing. And so I think a strength of mine is to forgo any of the flashiness or the expressions that signify acting, and just try to be as unaffected as possible.
I had never worked with you before, but I mean, we knew each other and everything. I've seen movies of yours, and I immediately just started to just watching you, and I would just film when you were kind of I couldn't even tell when you were in or out of character sometimes, so you would just be, and I would just shoot, and it was really beautiful. There's a lot of it in the movie too, with you just kind of, passing back and forth or sitting there and things, and I don't feel that when we're shooting on film, I don't really feel pressure about the limit of it. I mean, I just think I'm gonna just imagine that there's actually more film in the camera than there is, and it always sort of works out. And we have a lot of nice extra stuff because of it. I don't know.
And you have the reputation for being a great cinematographer of faces. Could you talk about Kentucker's
close-ups,
face?
just nice. Well, it's his face. That has to do with the faces. And it was nice to I like the light in the trailer. I really like the atmosphere in that camper. And this movie really, more than any, I just look at the light on his and her faces, and I just really can look at. I've watched it now like 4 or 5 times in the theater. I just like watching it for that.
You talk a little bit about the wide shots.
There is one. I don't like it. Get rid of that.
We can take some questions from the audience. It's a question about the tea flower and its
water
symbolic.
temperature.
Very, very purposeful. No, just that was a coincidence, I guess. But
Is the tea flower, is that something that people really know? Like a lot of people know? I don't know. I had never seen it before, and okay, yeah. I don't know how novel that is.
Charles, do you want to talk about tea flowers?
yeah, I mean, I think they're a recent. I discovered I was working on the screenplay at my aunt and uncle's house in New Hampshire, and they had them. I was like making coffee or something. There was a little bag on the shelf that was like tea flowers. I was like, huh? And I looked them up online, and I think they're like I think they've only been around for like 20 or 30 years. They're actually just tea leaves hand sewn together, so they expand. So it's not actually a flower. So it's really just a novelty thing. But I just love the image of it, and yeah.
We'll put a metaphor into the next one.
It's a question about the music in the film, specifically the sort of nostalgic seeming stuff.
Yeah, we wanted the film to, as a whole, be very timeless and not really pinpointed to a specific time in our culture or time in our, except for like the cell phone. I think there's like 1 or 2 other things you could really use to date it. And so we wanted the music to span all timelines. The theremin pieces that are playing when he goes to the gym the first time, or the Y, and when they're driving, is a woman named Claire Rockmore, who's a famous thereminist, no longer around, from, I think, Romania, but I could be wrong. And I heard those pieces when I was writing and just kind of fell in love with them. And I just thought the melancholy tone was perfect for what I was trying to get at. And the Christmas songs, I just wanted Christmas music that people, there's so much Christmas music out there. And most of it just never sees the light of day. And I just thought there was so much interesting stuff I could use that people hadn't heard.
Seems like a film that's really made in those little moments. How much of that was conveyed in the script versus discovering it while you were shooting?
It's a question about the film's episodic quality and whether that was in the script or you sort of came up with that while shooting.
I mean, the script, what you see here was all pretty much, word for word from the script, but the script only dealt with words, and so everything that Kentucker brought himself was really just from him. Like, the script didn't say, like, Noel leans against the window and, like, is, I don't know, I can't even describe what he's doing, yeah. So that was all product of that, but, yeah, all the dialogue was heavily scripted, which I felt with shooting on film it kind of had to be.
But you always look for those moments that are unscripted. I mean, that's the only reason that to make the movie is to find that stuff that's those little addendums, or even just the moments that become the heart of the scene, that become something you can sort of build around. I mean, that's what I'm a filmmaker myself, and that's what I look for as an editor and a filmmaker, is just like to find those moments and build everything around that, even if it's not, maybe it's described in a line in the script, but you really can't capture in a line in a script how exactly it feels.
Like them watching the tea flower at the end. It's like one of my favorite things.
In the middle of the room? To the side. Yeah, you.
What was it like working in that trailer? I mean, it must have been tight.
Yeah, we had a small crew of like only 5 or 6 people really for most of the time, and like our AC would, he'd clap it and then like hide in the bathroom while we shot.
Well, the bathroom that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It looks a lot bigger in the movie than in real life. I was really watching it this time, also thinking that.
But yeah, it was fun. It was tight, and there was no
really cold outside.
else to go.
That
Yeah,
one.
it's like, oh, we don't have room for you in here. Like, go stand out in the cold while we work on the scene.
So it seemed to me that Kentucker was very much on mission, which was sell the trees and everything had to be done, and life was happening all around him as
Yeah, we I had a lot of price talk in the script that as we were started filming, I think Kentucker was like, "Yo, man, why are these characters always talking about money? Like, it's not cinematic." And I was like, "But that's real. Like, that's what these guys do, you know." And then there's a point where I had to be like, "You know what? The strength of this isn't going to be based on like how real it is."
Whether it's $40 or $50.
Yeah, like that's a $48. No, it's like it doesn't. Just relax and just kind of.
Unless everybody wanted to know more about the prices. I mean, we can go. I mean, there's some flexibility. We can go back and edit something, or we could just list how much they all costed at the end. Yeah, but I don't know. I kind of struggled through life, so I feel this character is it's not a stretch, and I'm relatively ambitious, and I get up every morning and do things, even though it's a struggle. Anybody feel that way?
In the back.
You ever gonna get that answer again?
It was 15 days, 3 5-day weeks, and then we did like a half day of Hannah waking up and walking to the stand after Christmas, after everything was gone. So like 15 and a half days.
Can you tell us what your total budget was to make the film, and did you do some crowdsourcing to raise money?
I can.
Did you do a sequel called Same Time Next Year?
I will not be doing a sequel, backwards order. We did a Kickstarter for a portion of the budget. I cannot tell you the budget, unfortunately, but it was very small.
Very low.
Very little.
It's so low that it's what people say you can't shoot on film with that low of a budget, for sure.
Anyone else want to know about the budget? Here.
Was the Obama tree line, was that something that was a real customer? And also, what's everyone's favorite species of tree?
A question about whether the Obama tree
Yeah.
bit is.
And Yvonne's here somewhere, right? Yvonne, where are you? Yeah, our Obama tree lady. That was none of the customers were like word for word lifted from life, just kind of experiences of types of people, I think. People who have done like lots of research before they come down, or like people who are on the phone while they try and pick out a tree. So none of the conversations themselves were lifted. Wait, what was?
The second question
my
was
favorite-
everyone's
yeah,
favorite
yeah.
species of tree.
I really like blue spruces, which are really, really sharp, and but beautiful.
I don't have a favorite.
Think a weeping willow, but it's terrible for a Christmas tree, I think.
We have time for one more. So.
Two more.
In the back.
Were Noel's reminders to think about the passive aggressive message to your employees?
I don't think I heard.
The question was if basically the script was a passive aggressive attempt to educate my employees.
Training video.
No, actually, my employees are fantastic.
You won. You looking for hires next year. You must watch the movie before you get on.
All right, I think that's all we have time for. So
Yeah, thank you guys
thank
so
you
much
guys.
for coming.